Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney. Thanks for joining me for your top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Today is Monday, February 15th. Happy Monday to you and happy President's Day. If you weren't aware, Ohio has been called the mother of presidents because 7 U.S. presidents have been born in Ohio. That's a pretty significant number out of the 46 presidents that we've had in the U.S. The presidents who were born in Ohio are Ulysses S. Grant, born in Point Pleasant, Rutherford B. Hayes, born in Delaware, James Garfield, born in Orange Township at the time, which is now Moreland Hills, Benjamin Harrison, born in North Bend, William McKinley, born in Niles. There's the McKinley Monument down in Canton, where I'm from. William Howard Taft, born in Cincinnati, and Warren G. Harding, born in Corsica, which is now Blooming Grove. And also, not born in Ohio, born in Virginia, but settled in Ohio, William Henry Harrison is also claimed as Ohio's 8th president. So, fun fact there, in case you didn't know. And also, happy pre-Snowmageddon Day. There is a lot of wintry weather heading our way. We've got the live blog up on WKYC.com. You're going to want to stay tuned there in between our newscasts today, where you get the most up-to-date information about the weather. We'll have real-time weather updates for you there. One of our meteorologists, Matt Wentz, said that what we can predict, what he has predicted, what they are forecasting, is heavier snow moving in tonight into early Tuesday. And what has happened is the storm system has wrapped up in the southern U.S. and will be rapidly heading our way today. We can expect on and off snow showers to continue today before widespread moderate to heavy snow moves in this evening, Monday evening. And our meteorologist Jason Frazier tweeted out the weather map that they've created, and we can expect 8 to 14 inches in a lot of the Northeast Ohio area by Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And they say then we'll have a little bit of a break until Thursday when we'll get more snow. And of course, we'll bring you all those updates. Now, as you are out there, obviously road conditions will be a little tricky. But be careful because you can't always see when the road conditions are bad. That's what happened in Tennessee. There's a home security camera video that we have on WKYC.com of a pickup truck sliding sideways down an icy street in Tennessee. So this driver pulls out of the driveway and then he starts to just glide down the hill. I'm not kidding you when I tell you this truck is completely sideways, passing several other driveways. It doesn't look like it should be possible for a vehicle to move this way with the tires completely perpendicular to the way the truck is moving. Now, the driver didn't hit anything, and he did stop sliding before colliding into a car that was parked on the street. Thank goodness. The driver guessed that it was about 150 yards before coming to a stop. So you have to check out that video. Again, that's on WKYC.com. Another video we have on WKYC.com is a wrong-way driver on Saturday night. So another collision left left 4 people injured, and we've got that video up on the website. This happened at around 11:40 p.m. on Saturday night near 185th Street and East 152nd on I-90. What happened was a driver was going westbound in the eastbound lane and struck another car just head on. So 4 people were injured, and what happened was 2 women were trapped inside their car. Now, police say a 30-year-old woman is in critical condition and a 37-year-old woman is in serious condition. 2 other women involved in the accident are in stable condition. We don't have any word at this time on why the vehicle was going the wrong way on the freeway, but we do know that the investigation is ongoing and the 31-year-old female driver has been named as a suspect in that investigation. So again, that's something that you can see on WKYC.com. Now let's give you a quick recap of what happened in Washington, D.C. over weekend with the historic second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump. Our senators for Ohio, Sherrod Brown and Rob Portman, as members of the Senate, served as jury members in that trial. Senator Sherrod Brown voted guilty to convict Trump, and Senator Rob Portman voted not guilty to acquit Trump. And in the end, the former president was acquitted. Now, it was a bipartisan vote. The vote was 57 guilty, 43 not guilty. So 7 Republicans joined Democrats because every single Democrat voted to convict former President Trump, making it a bipartisan vote. And by the way, this is the most bipartisan effort to convict a president or former president of an impeachment charge that we've ever seen in U.S. history. Former President Trump is now the third and fourth sitting / former president to be impeached in the U.S., to be impeached in the House, and then the trial in the U.S. Senate. But they fell short of the 10 votes needed in order to convict him, which is what people were thinking would then lead to him potentially being barred from running again for future office. Here were the two major moments that caught everyone's attention on Saturday. People were not expecting the House managers, the people who act as the prosecutors, to call for witnesses, but there was reporting that came out by CNN on Saturday that sort of shed some light or, aimed to shed some light on what the former president's mindset was when the insurrection was happening in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. Well, with that coming out, the House managers decided that they wanted to call a representative. They wanted to call a witness who had talked with the House Republican leader, McCarthy, about the conversation that he had with former President Trump, who was then president, on January 6th. Well, when that came out, what ended up happening was they decided not to call witnesses. So Republicans did join Democrats in voting to consider calling witnesses, but at the end, they decided not to call witnesses. Again, they read a statement into the record from that CNN reporting. So that was a major moment that happened. Well, then the vote went on from there, and of course, the vote did come back 57-43, acquitting the former president. But then after that, in the vote, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell voted not guilty. But then after that, he took to the podium and he delivered a scathing speech, basically saying that the former President Trump was in fact responsible for provoking the riot in January 6th. But what he said is that in his view, the trial was unconstitutional because the president was no longer in office. Now, here are the interesting elements to that. First of all, the Senate had adjudicated that issue. From a legal perspective, it had been adjudicated. The question at the very beginning of the impeachment trial was, is this constitutional to move forward? The Senate voted and had determined, yes, it was constitutional to move forward. So Senator McConnell took it upon himself to ignore that determination made by the Senate in offering that justification for his not guilty vote. Second, he also went on to say that he believes that the president could still be held accountable in a criminal trial. So that was another news-making moment this weekend. So now you're caught up on what happened, and the impeachment trial process is done in Washington, D.C. Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Ohio. These come from the Ohio Department of Health. First, let's start with the Ohio numbers. In the last 24 hours, we've seen 1,915 new reported COVID-19 cases. Again, this is a lower number. We typically see a lower number on Mondays, especially with today being a holiday. We see that lower number because less labs are reporting, and we've seen 48 new reported deaths in the last 24 hours. Now remember, this number will fluctuate in the coming days because the state of Ohio is still reconciling underreported deaths from November and December. Now, what we've seen over the weekend on Saturday in terms of the positive rating, 5.2% of 28,000 COVID tests came back positive on Saturday. So that's about 1,444 positives. And the 7-day average is now at 5%, which is right at that World Health Organization recommended threshold. In the last 24 hours, we've seen 79 new hospitalizations related to COVID-19, and there are now 1,633 people currently in the hospital being treated for COVID. 474 of those people are being treated in an ICU, and we've seen 6 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. Across the state of Ohio, 34% of our hospital beds are open. That's about 9,270 hospital beds. And when we look at the vaccination numbers, the total number of people who are fully vaccinated against COVID-19 in the state of Ohio is about 4% of our population, about 481,300 and some fully vaccinated. Now, in the last 24 hours, they've added 11,368 to that total. And when you look at the people who have started the vaccination process, because remember, again, the vaccinations that are available right now are 2 shots. The people who've gotten that first shot is about 11.3% of our population here in Ohio, so 1.3 million people. Now let's take a look at the global and the national numbers. These come from Johns Hopkins University. Globally, the total number of COVID cases is 109,048,482, and the total number of deaths globally is 2,405,114. Here in the U.S., with about 4% of the global population, we lead dramatically in the number and percentage of cases and percentage of deaths. We have 25.4% of the COVID cases and 20.2% of the global deaths, with that number ticking up ever so slightly over the past days. The total number in the U.S. is 27,658,952 reported COVID cases, and the total number of deaths is 485,728. Now, back to the vaccinations here in Ohio. If you remember, last week, Governor Mike DeWine said he would be expanding the people who fall into Phase 1B of the vaccination rollout here in Ohio. So starting this week, certain people who were born with or have serious conditions they developed in childhood and carried with them into adulthood will be eligible this week to get vaccinations. These are people who have been diagnosed with sickle cell anemia, Down syndrome, cystic fibrosis, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy, spina bifida, severe heart defects that require regular specialized medical care, and also people with severe type 1 diabetes who have been hospitalized for treatment of that diabetes in the past year. We've got more details about that on WKYC.com if you want to look more closely into that and to who might be eligible starting this week. But do remember, when people are making vaccination appointments, a lot of places are still working through the older Americans who were part of Phase 1A and so on and so forth. So just because people are eligible this week doesn't necessarily mean you might be able to get in this week, because those backlogs are still being worked through while we wait for more vaccines to become available here in Ohio. All right, now let's turn to the sports update. J.J. Watts, if you remember, defensive end from the Houston Texans, had reportedly asked to be released from the Texans. He was granted that. Not sure what's going on there in Houston. Of course, remember the quarterback also asking to be released, Deshaun Watson. That was a conversation that came up here. Well, the Browns are among the teams targeting J.J. Watt, according to a report. Now, here's where this could get dramatic. Both of J.J. Watt's brothers play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, according to Tony Grassi of ESPN 850 here in Cleveland, defensive end J.J. Watt is not interested in playing with his brothers TJ and Derek as a member of the Steelers. According to that report, Watt has a goal of competing for a championship, which reportedly is one of his biggest frustrations with the past season. Playing for the Texans, he felt like he was wasting his remaining years in the NFL on a losing team. Very interesting there. Now, at the Browns situation right now, of course, Myles Garrett is an incredible defensive end, but if you look at the case of Olivier Vernon, he had that Achilles injury, and that had him out this season, and he's up in free agency now, and he's getting a bit older, so could make sense for J.J. Watt to end up here in Cleveland. And the Browns have shown that they are definitely championship contenders. We saw that this year, and that is absolutely great to say. Now, here's where it could get complicated when it becomes the salary question, because right now it looks like the Cleveland Browns have very friendly cap space when it comes to potentially bringing in J.J. Watt. But our quarterback Baker Mayfield, star running back Nick Chubb, both up for long-term extensions this offseason. So lots to consider there. But the Browns reportedly in the running to consider trying to bring J.J. Watt to Cleveland. Now, speaking of people who came to Cleveland, it looks like the Cleveland Cavaliers experiment with Andre Drummond is about to be over. We are now learning that the Cavaliers reportedly will not play Drummond as they seek a trade for him. Now, he played just 8 games last year when he came to Cleveland as part of the shortened basketball season, and the team now says that they're resting him. His average scoring numbers per game are down, and the trade deadline is March 25th. And the Cavs have been on a 7-game losing streak, so we'll see what happens with Andre Drummond and what kind of a move the Cavs make there. One more thing to let you know about before we go here. On my 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney podcast this week, the topic is relationship attachment style. So we're keeping the love talk going. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, so a little bit of extension. Last week we talked about the 5 love languages. Well, this week I talked with Cleveland Clinic psychologist Dr. Amy Sullivan about attachment styles. If you know anything about this, there are basically 3: avoidant, anxious, and secure. And what I found very interesting about talking with Dr. Sullivan is what she has to say about what is the best attachment style. I found it very surprising. Check out the podcast. Just search for 3 Things to Know with Stephanie Haney wherever you get your podcasts, or you can just go to wkyc.com/3 Things to Know, and you will find every episode of the podcast all linked there. You can listen on your favorite podcast platform, or you can watch it on YouTube if you prefer to do it that way. And another reminder for you, we want to share your snowy photos and your snowy videos. So as the snow starts to come down, you can text us pictures to 216-344-3300. You can also send us videos using the WKYC app. Just open up the app, scroll down, and you'll see the prompt right there to send us your videos. Make sure you tell us who you are, where you're from, and how we can get in touch with you, whether that's with a phone number or your email address, so we can let you know if we're going to use something that you've sent us online or in one of our shows. And you can also post on social media using #3weather so that we can see all of this beautiful, that's my opinion, snow that's falling down here in Northeast Ohio over the next week. That's it for your 3 News Now update for Monday, February 15th. I'll see you next up on What's New at 5 p.m. with your trending stories in the Clicking in Cleveland segment. And remember, if you don't yet have the WKYC app, now's a great time to download it because you can watch all of our newscasts there live for free in the WKYC app. Everyone, enjoy your afternoon. Stay safe. Drive carefully. Stay warm. Be well. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. I'm Stephanie Haney.